So yeah, I guess we'll just like pass this off to each other.
Okay. Where's the actual mic? Is it that?
This is the
In
mic.
that? Okay, right.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is the first podcast episode.
But you're holding it way out here.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
right.
have to hold it like that.
I forgot about that.
Uh,
So this is the first podcast episode. I'm here with Daniel, and we're just gonna see where this goes, and hopefully we get some good stuff out of it. I guess I could just maybe start with like an introduction. So I know I met you, and you started freestyle frisbee when you came out here for college at Columbia, and I think you're involved in you have a bunch of different double lives going on. So yeah, if there's anything that you'd like to start off with.
cool. Thanks for having me, Haim. I'm excited to be your first podcast guest. And yeah, I'm Daniel O'Neill. I live in Harlem, New York City. I've lived in the city for about 15 years. I grew up in Connecticut. And I'm excited to see where your podcast goes. My first piece of advice is I feel like every good podcast I've heard, they tell you up front they tell you what they're gonna tell you, they tell you, and then they tell you what they told you. I'm curious. I mean, I know we're just figuring it out, but kind of what the thread is that's gonna join all your podcasts together, that what your target audience is. I hope I didn't just shut it off. I pressed that button by accident.
You did?
Did I might not have, but
Looks like it's still
still on?
recording.
Cool, sorry. I almost pressed it.
All right, we're good.
All right.
Still alive. So I'd say one thing I wanted to really ask is, in terms of growth for yourself, entering the sales world, because that's something you've been doing for I don't know how many years exactly.
10 years. Yeah,
Okay.
about 8 years.
And so I was wondering, when you started off, what was your mindset when you started? What even drew you to that career path? And then once you were in it, what was the evolution, from when you started to, I guess, where you kind of where you are now? And yeah, we could start with that.
Cool, yeah. Sales, I feel like acting, I studied acting in college, and I felt like that prepped me for sales because you learn how to tell stories and you learn how to listen actively and read people. And those are all really important skills in sales too. I guess I started sales earlier than 8 years ago because I worked in restaurants, if you count that. So, but that's very transactional sale. And at a certain point, I got kind of jaded working in restaurants in the city and thought I want to take my college degree and make some real money. And I kind of fell into sales through a friend who's working at a company, and they were hiring salespeople, and they just took a chance on me. And it was an entry-level sales development representative role. You'll hear it called SDR or BDR. And essentially those people are just kind of the first line of attack to try and create interest in a product or a company. And in the corporate sales world, usually the idea is to set up meetings. And so I really cut my teeth as an SDR. The company's called Recruitix. We sold technology that helped companies advertise their jobs. And so I learned a lot about that world. And but yeah, for me, really, it was I quickly rose in sales because I feel like I was able to build relationships with people and get them to like me and to trust me. People buy from people that they like and that they trust.
That's pretty cool. So when you were going through it, was it a lot of figuring it out, or were you yeah, I think I know pretty early on it's really about relationship building and I have that, or were you seeking out advice from other people, and what was the progression in that area?
Definitely a lot of trial and error, and very similar to acting, I would say sales requires an ability to persevere rejection. You're going to hear a lot of no's, probably way more than you hear yeses. So you have to be able to roll with those punches and not let that slow you down too much. And so at the beginning, I'm sure I didn't know what I was doing. I can think of plenty of times I pissed people off, got hung up on. I remember one person, like, I sent them a LinkedIn message, and I've tried to call them on their cell phone, and they were so taken aback that I had done these two actions in such quick succession that they immediately called my boss behind my back to, like, say how pissed off they were and, like, tried to get me in trouble. So definitely at the beginning of your sales career, just, like, trust the process, work harder than the people around you, and like, don't take any no's personally along the way, and just look at every failure as a learning opportunity.
What when you went through like rejections, like how did I guess what did you tell yourself, or like how did you um, interpret it?
Um, yeah, like, I mean, there's, a deal you can lose a deal for so many ways. And 9 times out of 10, and I'll keep making parallels to acting. I mean, or you could lose a role, and like 9 times out of 10, like, it has nothing to do with you. Maybe you weren't the right height, or like, you just didn't look like the family member of the person they cast in the opposite role. Or in a sales context, the timing could just not be right. Like, so much of corporate sales is timing. And so, like, when people say no, a lot of times it's often just that the timing's not right. But they can still respect your effort to reach out to them, and if you do it in a polite way, and you're organized to take notes about why things didn't work, then you'll really start to set up your success for the future. So, like, when someone says no, the timing's not right, like, I will try to give them something of value, in at least to the extent that I can right there in that moment, so that they feel like it wasn't a waste of their time that I reached out to them. And then I'll take note, and maybe 6 months from now is a better time, and I'll reach back out, and maybe they'll remember that they had a decent experience talking with me that first time. And so, yeah, a lot of relationships are built over time with patience. And then one of my great sales tactics is, once you do start gaining momentum and build some relationships, get some clients, get some success, take those clients with you. People move on to new companies, and a lot of my best clients are people that worked with me in the past, moved on to a new company, and then worked with me again on the strength of the relationship that we had, or referred me to other friends or people that they thought that I could help.
Yeah, I like that. When you were like, I guess, did you notice like other people that you worked with? Have you seen changes, I guess, from when they started with your company, and like maybe like newcomers, and like have you seen them, like, I guess, learning any tactics, and then you're like, okay, that seems like once they started to do that, they started to do better. I don't know if you had a chance to, like, as a more senior role, see what other people were going through.
Yeah. I think one thing that really I've found effective is, like, you have to find a way to show the prospective client, whoever it is you're trying to woo, that you know them, that you're well researched, and trying to break down the barrier of not knowing them. And so, like, little hacks that I use, like, for example, on LinkedIn, are like, I don't use a lot of punctuation, like uppercase letters and like periods. Like, I try and make it look and feel more like a Facebook Messenger chat, or like something that's like more of just like I'm kind of slipping into their DMs, and talk to them on a really casual basis. And that sometimes helps break down the, like, professional structure, and lets them kind of meet me more peer to peer. So I found that, like, new salespeople, as they're learning, that however they can, like, find a way to get that personal, authentic touch to their communication style is when they're gonna be more effective.
Do you ever feel like you're being inauthentic and you're like, all right, I gotta dial it, or
All the time, yeah. I mean, and especially I haven't always sold things that that I fully believe in, or it's easy to sell something when you truly believe in it, but you never want to feel like a used car salesman or a snake oil salesman, and sometimes, you know, I you obviously sales has a lot of pressure because usually you have a quota or like some kind of a financial expectation that your livelihood's on the line for that. So that's usually when there's some kind of like you know you I always try to think like the client and how can I help the client. That's like my number one, and to the extent that you can do that in sales, the better off you'll be. And then the only friction that or time that I feel inauthentic, I guess, is when if I feel like I'm trying to have to fit a round peg into a square hole, or solve their problem with something that I don't really offer. So, if someone's describing, usually the first part of a sales process is discovery, really getting to the bottom of why'd you take my call, what's your issue that you're looking to solve, and then I try and be really honest and realistic. Can I solve that problem? And if I can't, then the honorable thing to do would just be to part ways, and not try to sell you something if I can't truly solve your problem. Kind of a roundabout answer, but
yeah, that's cool. What kind of research, I guess, goes into it when you're trying to figure out what you are gonna sell?
yeah. Well, usually the deeper ties into an organization you can build, the better chance you have of selling and ultimately having a successful relationship after that initial sale. So you don't want to just try and sell to one person, but maybe there's the main purse string holder, the decision maker, the vice president, or whoever is at the top of the food chain, but there's probably also influencers, practitioners, other people that you want to get to know and research along the way that will help you build your business case when you're trying to make a sale. But usually my research starts with who am I selling to? Where do they come from? Where do they live? What do they like? Do they have kids? How can I connect to them on a personal level before we even talk business, again, to build trust and likability. But then I also want to be really well informed on, my own, what I'm trying to sell them, what I think their problem is, and maybe if on that first call I can give them free value in some way, having done my research, maybe I went to your website, Haim, and I noticed a couple ways that you can improve it, and I offer you those for free. Then immediately I'm building trust with you. So that's the type of research that any good salesperson will do, along the way and as they're building relationships.
Yeah, one thing I just thought of, when you're are there patterns in terms of personalities that you see, between different types of people that you're selling to?
Yeah, definitely. And I try and match people's personalities. That's kind of where an acting tactic comes in. I've sold a lot in the HR space, and typical prototype we say is a barb from HR, maybe somebody who's worked at the same company in an HR function for many years, and isn't super tech savvy, may not know what AI is. So I think age has something to do with it, gender, uh, background, and like, like there's different, but like I do try and match my personality to the people that I'm selling to the extent that I can. Um, but like I would say that most good salespeople, at least, like there's the salesperson and the client. Most good salespeople obviously have to be outgoing to some extent, or like at least need to be confident in their communications. And on the client side, like sometimes you'll have people that are like they really want you to cut to the chase. Other people really want to shoot the shit with you and like talk about everything except for business. And so I think again it all comes down to reading the room, active listening, and you know like being empathetic and trying to connect with whoever it is, as different from you as they might be.
That was cool. I was wondering when you said that, you know, I think you being a confident speaker is one element of it. Is like, how do you, like, what do you think is it that makes you a confident communicator?
Um, I guess I feel like a confident communicator because, I mean, man, like speaking with diction, like making sure that people can literally understand the words you're saying. I think like technical little details like that help, but also like, sticking to topics that you know about and that you care about. Like I feel like passion is really important in sales too, and so like yeah, I mean, I feel like confidence and passion kind of go hand in hand, and also yeah, just knowing that what gives me confidence is like never feeling like if I'm walking into a sales conversation or a negotiation, I never want to feel desperate or like I need that deal. Like I never even feel like that about a job. Like even if I'm in a really high paying white collar sales job, I'm like, man, if I lose this job tomorrow, so what? Like I got other shit going on. And that gives me like a kind of a leg up, I feel like, when I walk into a sales negotiation, because it's not the end of the world. Like it's not rocket science. It's not life or death. We're not, surgeons. It's like just a sales deal at the end of the day.
So is it that you just don't take it too seriously and you don't take yourself, or you don't take, if you don't take it too seriously?
I do take it seriously though. Like I take my job really seriously. But yeah, just like kind of like keeping everything in perspective and having other stuff going on, like never having all your eggs in one basket, and just making sure that you're diversified in your interests in what's like giving you fuel and like really like positive energy. Because yeah, like that stuff, like sales, like man, I'm not the kind of salesperson that can show up to the job the same, unfortunately, every single day. So you have to be realistic about when you've got like your best energy in the day, in the week, and lean into that and like really lean into your strengths. Like I get up, I have a good cup of coffee on a Monday morning, I feel fired up and ready to go. And so I really make the most of that time. And then I'm also easy with myself though if I need to take a break and do yoga, even if it's the middle of the day on a Wednesday, or take a Friday afternoon off. It's about really like understanding your strengths and weaknesses and playing into your strengths and making your weaknesses also your strengths if you can.
What's like the most important skill, or the skill that you love that you've picked up from this career path?
I think probably wow. the question was, what's the skill that I learned in my sales career that I'm the most grateful for, or that I feel like or what?
Yeah, I guess something like you think about. You're like, I'm really glad I did sales for that reason.
Yeah, well, it's really relevant right now because like I'm now pivoting back into the film industry as a producer and an actor. And I'm so grateful for all my years of sales because it's making me a way better producer. Just literally everything from, you know, just like corporate interactions, scheduling, motivating, like leadership skills, like motivating your teammates around you. Active listening, I've said a couple times, but probably the best skill that I've learned is just like, yeah, being able to really listen in the moment to somebody, like understand what their problem is, and then find a way to help them see how I can solve it for them. I mean, that's kind of the crux of sales is helping people solve a problem. And so like I feel like I've gotten a lot better at reading what a person or an organization really wants, why we sat down at the table to begin with, and the interpersonal skills of what do I have to say to them in order to get them to believe that the partnership that we could have together is gonna solve their problem. So problem solving skills.
Is there an example that you've had yet, in terms of, you said you're going now into the film path, where maybe you've started, like you're like, okay, I used it here, and you had maybe a meeting with someone, and you're selling yourself or you're selling your movie. I don't know if it's too soon, but if you've already had an experience like that, if you have an example.
Yeah, I mean, like I was lucky enough to go to the movie premiere of the number one movie on Netflix right now. It's called Carry On. My friend's in it. So we're there in LA at the Carry On film premiere, and we recently just wrapped shooting on a short film. And I just was so taken aback by like how much momentum matters. And like when we were out there telling people about our film, everybody wanted to get involved. And suddenly like what had taken years, like to like, you know, it felt like so hard to like just get the wheels in motion. But, you know, like just talking to people at that event, we made a lot of financial connections that helped to fund our second project. And it all started with just, you know, very empowering, first of all, to make your own work, or to be to go from being a worker for somebody else to then becoming an entrepreneur and working for yourself. And then that gives you confidence to speak about your own work. And if you build it, they will come. Like I'm constantly surprised that like if you put something out into the world and ask for it, usually the world will be there and answer.
I like that. With the like the filmmaking, I guess, festival that you said you were just attended, was like, what kind of problem would you say you were solving when you were meeting with these, I guess, executives? And
so the problem is like getting money, so I don't have to use my own money. Like we made our first movie, I used some of my own money out of my pocket for that. And I'm like, well, my problem is like, all right, I want to that was a 15-minute movie. I want to make a 90-minute movie, and I don't want to pay a dime of it out of my own pocket. So that's my problem as a producer that I'm trying to solve. And like, you know, the problem for a lot of the you know, potential partners that we're meeting and people that we're meeting in the film industry is, how do we, in a world where, everything's been told, every stone's been uncovered, it seems like it's so hard to create something truly new. Like, what are you and your production company and your film gonna offer that's truly unique, that's different, that's worth saying? So that's their problem, is like trying to attach themselves to the next new big thing, and I'm really enjoying like trying to figure out what that is for me and my team, and how to sell that, and and find the right collaborators to fund our vision and work with us to realize those dreams and make bigger, better, more important films.
So I'm assuming it also varies depending on which person you're speaking to, like what your film could do for that type of, I guess, executive's
Whether it's
vision.
an actor or a producer or a cinematographer, you're gonna have a different, there'll be a different end game. Different people. There's all kinds of roles to play, but yeah.
I was wondering, like, with the whole sales thing, I was advised once, like, that if you want to go into sales, you have to be like an organized person. Are you an organized person?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you have to find an organization system that works for you. But I'm actually a very ADHD person. It's like, it's very difficult for me to like sit in one place for too long, and like, I wouldn't say that I'm like extremely well organized. But I found a way, again, like to understand like where my strengths and weaknesses lie within that, and like I do what works for me. Like I take a lot of like shorthand notes, like just notes that I'll probably never even go back and look at the note itself, but just the act of writing it down will help me remember it. I do keep a lot of stuff up here in my head, but like I'll take little voice notes and voice memos for myself, and like write sticky notes and put them on my house to remind myself of stuff. I'll like put, like reminders in my phone, so I get like alarms that go off if there's something really important that I can't forget. So just have to, there's a lot of resources that can help you stay organized. In the sales world, usually like you have something called a CRM, customer relationship management, whether that's like a Salesforce, a NetSuite, but like some kind of system where you're logging all your calls and you're writing notes about that, and helping to push a prospective client through the different stages in a process, from discovery to price negotiation to an offer, and then their assigned client. So you have to like lean on the resources around you to help you stay organized.
Thank you. Are you actively like developing or like overcoming like your weaknesses, or like you're like, okay, this is something that I could be this is an area where I could be performing better, so let me put more. I don't know what the technique or practice that you'd have to implement would be, but like, are you taking note of that and then mitigating it so you could improve in those areas where maybe you're not as strong?
Yeah, I mean, every day try and be a little better than the day before. It's particularly on my mind right now because it's December 30th, and so I've like definitely got New Year's resolutions and like sticking points, things that I try to be better at, but that I struggle with. But journaling is a really great way to just like unpack, like really put pen to paper with nobody else accountable except yourself for these notes, but just write down what your weaknesses are, what your goals are, and just stare at that stuff on paper, and that that'll help you at least, like, I think like it's very hard to see our own weaknesses at times. So like I also use my friends as like a good mirror around me, and I really rely on my friends to keep me on course, to let me know when I'm messing up or where I am weak, and how I can improve, and like really hold my friends up as a mirror to myself when I can.
Are your friends ever honest with you and they're like, you need to work on this, man? Like,
Yeah, I hope that they are honest with me, and I try and be honest with my friends and with my family, and so yeah, I've definitely been told, you know, I remember being told that I talked too loud, and it was hard to hear that. I was like, like one of my friends was like, like sometimes you really talk too loud, and it's like it's hard. It makes me shut down, and I actually like can't. And I was like, I took that to heart. I was offended a little bit at first, but ever since then, I like really tried to like think about like what volume I'm speaking with, and is it right for the space, and like actually learned a lot from that moment that my friend like told me that, as hard as it was to hear in the moment.
you talk less loud?
I feel like, I mean, I, I feel like I at least have a better consciousness of the volume I'm speaking in any given situation.
I love that. Forgot what I was gonna say earlier, but yeah, I think that when you're, when you're looking at like your own inwardly, it's definitely hard because it's hard to like remove yourself from the equation. Um, I was wondering before, like, let me just think about how I'm gonna phrase that.
Yeah, it is cool as a podcaster though when you put your own color in it.
Yeah.
Like not just ask a question, but like put your own like thoughts and like color and commentary into, and like that's in sales too. Like you want to be like you want your prospective client to be talking more than you are for sure, and like so you want to be listening, but then like give your own little like color as the podcast. Like we want to know what you're thinking. You're the host at the end of the day. Like if you disagree with me or whatever.
That's true. Like I think they say like when you disagree with someone, that actually opens up the space more because people are like, okay, well they're being honest with me about, not necessarily just saying yes to everything that I'm saying. I think I wanted to ask earlier when you said you journal, like do you ever look back at your previous journals?
I keep all of them, and like I sometimes glance back at them. I like imagine one day when I'm like old, I'll like sit down and like really like read them through like a book. But like I guess like I have ones that are more like a diary that are like just like kind of like a daily log, where I just kind of try and put down on paper like just like 2 pages worth of like what I did that day, what I thought that day, what I'm thinking about for the next day. And those ones I don't really look back on that much. Again, like it's actually the exercise of writing it out that's like part of the therapy, and like just like most of what works for me about it. But then I have other journals that are more about organizing my thoughts for a project, like a film or like a frisbee routine or a dance performance or um, you know work project or whatever it is, and like those like are ones that I'll more like I'll do some work on it and I'll leave and I'll come back to it. I'll go look at, stare at it, send it to a friend, like to get feedback, and like so, kind of different. I mean, the journals like kind of more diary style. I actually don't look back that much at, but then I do other kinds of note taking that I definitely like go back to a lot more often.
When you're like interacting with different kinds of people, you said that when it comes to sales, that you do have to um, modify, I guess, the way that you're, um, I guess, presenting your idea because there are different types of people. In your personal life, are you, or I don't know if it's changed from when you before you did sales, the way you'd interact with people versus now. Do you kind of dial back or dial forward and Um, and I guess also I was wondering, do you try and set the tone, or do you kind of just um, go into whatever do you try and be affected by the tone that I guess is around you?
Oh, I really like that last question. Um, I I try to set the tone and lead the dance in my sales conversations. And like for example, I hate it when if I were to go down a sales call and I'm the client and that person didn't have their video on, I would feel like they weren't fully showing me themselves. Like so I like to be make sure I show up early to my call, turn my video on, look really friendly and presentable and well lit, so they can, when they get on that call, they can immediately see me, and they can make their first impression. But I'm setting the tone in that way, by showing up well prepared, well lit, friendly, approachable, and then similarly with the conversation, I'll try and start by, I don't know, noticing something about the room behind them or something maybe I researched before I got to the call, and try and talk about anything except the business that we're about to talk to just for a minute, just as a friendly introduction, then take back control and set out the agenda for the call so that expectations are mutually aligned on both sides. And that's what you kind of didn't do at the start of this podcast. Like, we just kind of started talking. But if it was my podcast, I would have been like, hey, I'm Daniel. This is this podcast. It's going to take about 20 minutes today, so you know what you're getting into. This is my guest. This is what generally we're going to talk about. Let's get started. But kind of frame it, you know what I mean? Then you do the thing, and then at the end, I'm going to wrap it up again. Like, all right, Mr. Client, like, here's what we spoke about today. Here's what I heard from you. 1, 2, 3, was that right? Is there anything that I forgot or that I missed that you might want to add? Get validation from them, and then establish next steps from there.
Yeah, I feel like you just took control. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I felt that. Um, I'm gonna take that note and use that in the next one.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I was also wondering, like I had a couple interviews lately, and I noticed like a couple of the interviewers, they were smiling a lot, and then I just started noticing I would smile to kind of mirror their smile. Do you also do like those little like social cues, or do you start off with this, like do you try and smile, or just try and be more, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where there's a personality matching thing. Like, some people, if you just like give them if you just like have a smile on your face the whole time, that's just gonna piss them off. Or like, so you kind of gotta just like read who you're working with. But like you said, like they're smiling and you're smiling to kind of match them. Like, that's kind of the energy I try and go for, and just keep it authentic. Not. I don't want to seem too eager or it's suspicious. Like, I want to keep a professional demeanor, but always optimistic.
I like that. Yeah, I think I kind of asked most of the questions I wanted to ask. What you said earlier, it's good to circle back and see if there's anything that you wanted to add, that you felt maybe I missed that I didn't ask, or something that you really feel like is important to talk about.
Yeah, I think sales is such a broad category, and we're all salespeople in some aspects of our lives. We all need to sell ourselves, in different ways. So I think ultimately you have to understand what's the objective. Like, am I trying to sell this item to gain a profit from it? That's fine. That's the way the world works. A lot of things are money driven, and but like trying to sell things that you believe in goes a long way. And I don't know. No, I think you did a great job, and I think we met like probably, I don't know, 8 years ago or something in Central Park, just just up down the road here, and I've always been impressed with your people skills um, and I think you're gonna do great with this podcast. So I hope that this first episode is the first of many, and that you know you take some learnings from it, and that the next ones are just better and better, man. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. One last thing, I think maybe if you want to share, do you want to talk about how you just quit your sales job?
Yeah, well, I made some great money in sales in the last 8 years. Mostly didn't talk too much specifically about what I did, but mostly recruitment, marketing, advertising agency type stuff, helping companies to find talent. And so I just this summer parted ways from that after about 8 years working in those types of roles to focus on, um, you know, my art. God, I'm 33 years old. In one way, I feel so young. I feel like all my best accomplishments are in front of me still, but I also feel pressure. I feel like my body, if I want to do art that really uses the athleticism in my body, there's a clock for that. Like if I want to go, like just accomplish my dreams, I better get started right now. And so I felt like I needed to, even though I was working remotely, like, just from an identity perspective, create some time and space in order to pursue those artistic dreams and figure out what those were for myself. And in the last few months, that's exactly what I've done. Done a lot of travel, reconnected with a couple close friends, and started a film production company. We are in post-production on a short film, pre-production on a feature film, which we're going to film in February here in New York City. So it's a really exciting time for me, and I'm still figuring out how to monetize it. So that's the next step. But yeah, I think like I said before, like I try and just stay open to the opportunities around me and not like take everything really seriously, but at the same time, like your job's not your whole life. Like it's all the journey is the destination. So whichever path you take is going to be a good path, probably.
Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you.
That was
Thanks,
fun.
Harry. Cool, man.